The year was 1918. The end of World War I was near. Amidst the chaos, a new republic was proclaimed and the emperor abdicated. This was where they thought their troubles would end. Little did they know this is where they began. Near the end of World War I, rebellions rose on 29th October within sailors and reached Munich by 7th November. Then, in Berlin, a new republic was proclaimed on the 9th of November 1918. The Emperor Kaiser Wilhelm II abdicated on 28th November, marking the end of Imperial Germany. Since the Constituent Assembly of the Republic took place in Weimar, it came to be known as the Weimar Republic. The Republic had a democratic and parliamentary form of government, and it signed an armistice with the Allies at the end of the war. Soon, in January 1919, the Spartacus League, a group of communist supporters, started an uprising in Berlin to turn the country communist, similar to that in Russia, but it ultimately failed. This was noted by the government. On 20 June 1919, the famous Treaty of Versailles was signed between the Allies and the Republic. According to the Treaty of Versailles, Germany had to give up nearly 10% of its territories to other countries, especially France, Belgium, and Poland. They also had to give up all of their overseas territories. The treaty limited the army to just 100,000 men and prohibited having an air force. The Rhineland had to be demilitarized. The war guilt clause made it so Germany had to take the blame for starting the war and the damages caused by it. So Germany had to pay about 20 billion gold marks as war reparations. Soldiers, citizens, and politicians alike were furious over the defeat, and outrage spread over the way the new republic was functioning. They saw the Treaty of Versailles as humiliating to the Germans. If someone thought that living conditions would get better after the end of the war, they would be wrong. The huge reparations that needed to be paid and the occupation of their territories only made it worse. It did not help when these factors caused massive hyperinflation for years to come. When the treaty was signed, the value of $1 was about 7.8 paper marks. See, back then, country's currency was tied to gold. Each note had to be backed by gold reserves. So printing more money did not create more value. It just made each note worth less. The value of the mark went down from 90 marks per dollar in 1921 to 320 marks in early 1922. The government paid workers and reparations by printing more and more banknotes, which made the currency crash. See, printing more currency was not a magic way to increase the value of a currency. The amount of the value of notes were fixed to the amount of gold reserves they had. Since the reserves were fixed, printing more notes meant the value of a single paper mark fell down. Their gold reserves were also depleted by paying reparations to the Allies. Hyperinflation got so bad that a single loaf of bread cost 200 billion marks by late 1923. The value per dollar was laughable, over 4 trillion marks for a single US dollar. Notes were worthless. People had to carry piles of cash to even buy bread. Hence, the government introduced a Renten mark, which was worth 1 trillion paper marks, cutting 12 zeros from the notes. In 1923, as Germany was not able to pay the installments the 34th time in 36 months, the French and the Belgians occupied the Ruhr Valley, which was Germany's main industrial region, and took its resources as reparations, worth about 900 million gold marks. The government did nothing but protest peacefully. This angered many Germans. Hitler thought this was the best opportunity, so he staged a coup on 8th November 1923 in Munich. Hi, editing me here. Fun fact, today is 9th November 2025, which is exactly 102 years after Hitler led this coup. He marched in the center of the city with his supporters, but it failed when the police confronted them. Hitler was put on trial for treason, but the judges who were supporters of his ideas gave him a 5-year sentence. In jail, he was favored by guards and was bailed out just 9 months later. Hitler was a soldier during World War I, but due to the Treaty of Versailles, he could not be a soldier anymore. So in 1919, Hitler left the army and joined the Deutsche Arbeiterpartei, or the German Workers' Party, which he found agreed with his far-right conservative and anti-Semitic ideology. He quickly rose to the top of the party and changed its name to the National Socialist German Workers' Party, which in German was Nationalsozialistische Deutsche Arbeiterpartei, which was termed shortly as the Nazi Party. He also designed a new flag for it with a black swastika in the middle of a white circle and a red background. Since parties were allowed to have paramilitary forces, Hitler set up the Sturmabteilung, or the Stormtroopers, in 1921. Their job was to protect party officials and also to disrupt other parties' meetings. Since the army was reduced and many soldiers lost their jobs, they joined the SA, and the SA grew larger as time went on. Later, in 1924, the Reichsmark was introduced, which was equal to a Rentenmark, and finally the economy stabilized. The years of 1924 to 1928 were regarded as the golden 20s in Germany, but in 1929 it all went down. To pay the war reparation and to re-industrialize, Germany got helping loans from the US as part of the DOS plan in 1924 and the Young plan in 1929. But in the New York Stock Exchange in October 29, stocks worth millions of dollars were sold and the market crashed. This was the Wall Street crash. Due to it, the US had no money and wanted its repayment for the loans. Germany, which was already struggling to pay the reparations, also had to now repay the loans, and a severe economic down came. With the start of the Great Depression, millions lost their jobs and poverty became widespread. Since the current moderate government was not working to change anything quickly, people had to go to extreme ideologies in the face of a crisis to bring some change. Hitler claimed that he would bring Germany back to its former glory and undo the Treaty of Versailles. Many like the idea of a single powerful dictator in Germany after the parliamentary form was failing. To add, Nazis used propaganda to make Hitler seem more powerful and great than he was. It worked. The Nazi Party, which had barely 3% of votes in 1928, had 33% of votes in 1932 after the economic crisis. Hitler also ran for the presidential elections in 1932, but lost to the more popular Paul von Hindenburg. In January 1933, Hindenburg gave Hitler chancellorship, the highest position in the German parliament. On February 27, 1933, the Reichstag, or the parliament building, was set on fire. It is not sure who set the fire. The Nazis, though, blamed the communists and urged Hindenburg to sign the Reichstag fire decree the very next day. This decree suspended public rights and allowed imprisonment without trial, which Hitler used to imprison many communist and other political opponents. In the 1933 elections, the Nazi Party won 44% of the votes. It also used their alliance with the German National People's Party, which won 8%, to get the majority of 52%. On 23rd March, he passed the famous Enabling Act, which allowed the cabinet, especially Hitler, to make laws bypassing both the parliament and the president. This essentially made Hitler a dictator. The leader of the SA, Ernst Röhm, demanded the SA have more military and political power, essentially replacing the German army. Hitler needed the support of the German army more than that of the SA. So, from 30th June to 2nd July 1934, he rounded up and murdered Röhm and many other SA leaders. He also killed many personal opponents. This became known as the Night of the Long Knives. After the death of President Hindenburg in August of 1934, Hitler made himself the totalitarian dictator of Germany and made his title the Führer, meaning leader. He changed the Weimar Republic into Nazi Germany, and this was where Germany was at the end of 1934. He would go on to change the outcome of the entire world in a few years. But who really was he, and how did he come here?